They invited you in with a smile that didn't quite reach their eyes. The air was warm, heavy with perfume and the faint metallic scent of coins passing through countless hands. You stepped over the threshold, not into a building, but into a ritual, one older than the walls that contained it. The lights burned too brightly, their gold glow masking the darkness they fed upon. Every sound was chosen, every movement rehearsed. You felt it immediately. This wasn't chance, this was theater, and you were meant to play the role they had written for you before you even arrived. Your eyes swept the room. Dealers in crisp suits performed their dances with mechanical grace, smiling as they fed the dream to each hopeful soul. Chips clattered like distant war drums. Cards snapped with the precision of a guillotine's fall. Around you, strangers sank deeper into their chairs, their eyes glassy with devotion, as if the tables themselves whispered promises only they could hear. You knew better. You could feel the hidden weight of the game pressing against your ribs. The rules were carved from stone long before you touched your first chip, and they were not made for your benefit. Somewhere inside you, an old voice stirred, a warning, low and unshakable. It told you that this place was not a sanctuary of fortune, but a cathedral of control, that every smiling dealer was a priest of an unholy order. You were not here to be blessed. You were here to be bled. You remembered the tales of ancient kings who lured enemies into banquets, only to lock the doors and burn the hall to ash. This was no different, only quieter, cleaner. They would not take your life. They would take something far more valuable. And yet, you didn't turn back. Not because you believed in the game, but because you wanted to see the bones beneath the velvet. You wanted to walk among the predators and learn how they moved, how they fed, how they hid their teeth. You weren't here to win. You were here to understand. The air thrummed with invisible strings, pulling every player, every glance, every heartbeat in rhythm with the house's design. You let the current take you, but not without anchoring your mind in a place they could not reach. You sat at their table and met their gaze. They believed they saw another dreamer, another moth circling the flame, but you knew what they didn't. You were counting the exits, watching the floor, marking the rhythm of the dealer's hands. You could feel the hidden heart of the place pulsing beneath the carpet, a heart that could be stopped, and though you gave them no reason to suspect, you carried in your chest the quiet promise that you would not only leave this place, you would leave it in ruin. Behind the gold and glass, the casino hums with a pulse you can't hear, but you feel in your bones. It is not music, it is not chance. It is machinery, ancient in its cunning, modern in its disguise. Every light, every flicker, every carefully timed chime is a needle in your mind. You are not a guest here. You are a variable in an equation that was solved long before you walked in. The air itself has been tuned to keep you awake, yet restless. Your eyes are guided to the places they want you to look. Your attention is owned before you even think to protect it. You start to notice the patterns. The dealer's hands are not just shuffling cards. They are measuring your breathing, watching the twitch in your jaw, calculating whether you are a desperate dreamer or a disciplined threat. The layout of the floor is no accident. Every table, every chair, every exit is a choice designed for you, but not by you. You think you move freely, but your path has already been written in invisible ink. The rules are not printed on paper. They are coded into the rhythm of the room. There is no fairness here. There is only balance, the kind that tilts permanently toward them. When you win, it is never by their mistake. It is permitted, calculated, a ration of hope to keep you compliant. You think you are making choices, but every chip you place, every card you draw, every breath you take inside these walls is feeding a system that does not bleed. And yet, it is alive. The house is not a building. It is a predator with velvet teeth. It wants you not dead, but hungry. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The glamour rots away, revealing gears and levers soaked in quiet cruelty. You see the house as a living organism, not a place. It eats the weak in gulps, the strong in sips. It survives not by chance, but by architecture. The tables are its heartbeat. The cameras are its eyes. The false laughter of winners is its bated breath. Even silence here serves a function. It is the sound of the machine thinking, recalibrating, ensuring you remain within reach. You realize then, beating them at their own game is a fantasy they sold you. They did not build this to be beaten. They built it to be believed in. The real trap is not the loss of your chips, but the slow surrender of your will. And if you cannot see the wires, the machinery will keep turning forever, whispering that maybe, just maybe, the next hand will be different. But you know now, it will never be different. And that knowledge is the first weapon you've ever truly held inside these walls. They stand before you like prophets of fortune. The man with the gold-toothed smile clutching his mountain of chips, the woman draped in sequins whose laughter seems to split the air like crystal. Their eyes gleam, their posture swells. The crowd watches them as though they've torn a hole in the sky. But you see it. That shimmer around them is not victory. It is bait. The house allows its chosen idols, parading them like trophies to prove the game is fair. These are not champions. They are living advertisements, proof of concept for a system built to devour everyone who steps inside. The game whispers to them in a language of false glory. The chips feel heavier in their hands, the lights a little warmer, the air sweeter. They mistake it for triumph, unaware that their win has been sanctioned, calculated, woven into the tapestry of the trap. The wheel does not spin for justice. The dice do not tumble for truth. They spin for spectacle. They fall for control. And those who think they've won are the most valuable servants of the machine, because nothing recruits like a survivor's smile. You watch them. You watch their joy stretch and crack when the next hand takes half their winnings, when the next turn strips away the rest. They will play again. They always play again. The house knows exactly how much to give before taking it all back. How much hope to pump into their lungs before they drown. It is not punishment, it is programming. The ritual repeats itself, ancient as the first dice thrown in the dirt, older than any casino rooted, and in the same law of power, keep the herd chasing, and they will never look at the shepherd's knife. Some nights you see them return with smaller smiles. The stacks of chips are thinner, their movements less certain. They are still convinced the next spin will restore the glory. They speak of luck, as though it were a god that blesses the faithful. But gods have no mercy for fools. The house does not care about devotion. It cares about your blood, your hours, your will. It wants you in the chair until you can no longer remember what life felt like outside these walls. Winning here is not freedom. It is a slower death. It's a velvet noose. And you realize this truth presses heavier on your chest than any loss could. You see the cycle for what it is, a wheel that never stops turning, fueled by the desperate belief that this time, maybe, you'll escape. But no one escapes by winning. You will not be one of them. You will not raise your glass to toast a victory that is nothing more than a trick of the light. You will not mistake the applause for freedom. And in this silence between spins, you feel it, something inside you turning away, already stepping beyond the table. You are no longer chasing the win. You are watching the walls for cracks. You stop chasing the illusion of victory. The thought comes quietly, like a shadow sliding across the back of your mind. For so long, you've been trapped in their rhythm, the predictable rise and fall of false hope and engineered loss. You played the game because you thought there was no other choice. But now, you see the shape of something larger. You see the scaffolding behind their world, the fragile skeleton that props up their theater of control. And for the first time, you understand. You were never here to win. You were here to dismantle. It begins with the smallest fracture in your thinking. No longer asking, how do I beat them? But instead, how do I render them irrelevant? The shift is almost invisible from the outside, but inside, it is tectonic. You stop thinking like a gambler, stop moving like prey. You begin to think like the architect of the collapse. Their greatest weapon was your belief in the game. Without that, their empire is nothing more than empty tables and desperate smiles. Your eyes start to linger not on the cards, but on the men who deal them. Not on the spinning wheel, but on the hand that spins it. You see the tremor in their confidence when your gaze holds too long. You study their rituals, their routines. The quiet, unguarded moments where the mask slips. Every detail becomes a weapon. Every weakness, a blueprint. You learn the choke points, the invisible places where one careful move could turn their precision into chaos. They cannot read you now. You no longer celebrate win. You no longer curse losses. You sit in silence, absorbing the hum of their machinery, the way a hunter learns the breathing of its prey before striking. They still believe you are playing. That belief is your camouflage. But your mind is no longer in the game. It's behind it, above it, pulling threads they cannot see. Power begins to take a different shape in your hands. It is no longer the hope of a jackpot, but the quiet knowledge that you could take away the entire stage on which they dance. You no longer seek to own the table, you seek to own the floor beneath it. The transformation is irreversible. Once you have seen the weakness in the foundation, you can never return to being the obedient guest in their house of tricks. You feel it in your chest, that still, dangerous calm that comes when you know the end of the story before anyone else does. You're not here to play. You're here to make the game disappear. And the most lethal part is this: they won't even see you coming. You move like smoke now. Unseen, ungraspable, impossible to pin down. The tables still spin, the dice still tumble, but you no longer lean forward like the others, desperate for a taste of fortune. You sit back, you watch. You feed the machine just enough to keep suspicion asleep. To them, you are harmless, a loyal, harmless participant, another body feeding the illusion of their invincibility. They don't know you have already stepped outside the game in your mind. You are here only to dismantle it from within. The dealers meet your eyes and see nothing. That is your weapon, an empty reflection. You have erased all signs of rebellion from your face. Yet every word you drop, every question you ask is deliberate. A stranger next to you wonders aloud about the fairness of the wheel. You let your silence hang just long enough before murmuring. Some games aren't meant to be fair. Your tone is neutral, but the seed is planted. It will bloom later when they are alone, when the glamour of the casino no longer blinds them. You speak less now, but every word is a blade. A casual remark about how the house never loses. A passing comment about the strange timing of certain lucky win. Nothing loud enough to be noticed. Everything sharp enough to cut through the haze. You know that doubt is a slow poison. Once swallowed, it cannot be undone. And so you lace it into conversations like a hidden venom, letting it spread quietly, invisibly, until their trust begins to erode. You lose on purpose. You feed the dealer chips with a smile, as though your losses are nothing. They relax around you. No one suspects the man who bleeds willingly. But while they believe you are harmless, you are mapping escape routes, tracking routines, memorizing which pit boss looks away at which hour. You study the current until you know exactly where to break the dam. Every loss you take is a signal to yourself patience is not weakness. It is pressure gathering behind the walls. At night, when you leave the casino's neon glow, you walk through the darkness replaying your move. You see the conversations you fractured, the loyal players who now hesitate before betting. You see the cracks in the walls widening, invisible to anyone who isn't looking for them. You understand now that chaos doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it begins in the quiet, in the moments no one notices, until it swallows everything whole. They built their empire on the belief that no one would question the rules. You have made questioning inevitable, and when the day comes for the collapse, they will think it happened all at once. They will never know it began here, with you smiling, losing, whispering the right words at the right time, dismantling their kingdom piece by silent piece. The hum of the casino was once a constant, a mechanical heartbeat that lulled the weak into believing it was eternal. Cards slapped, chips clinked, wheels spun in an endless rhythm that promised fortune but delivered change. That sound is gone now. The air is fractured by an unfamiliar stillness, the kind that makes people glance over their shoulders as if a shadow just passed through them. The dealers hold their cards but do not deal. The lights, those gaudy stars that once blinded every fool who entered, now flicker like dying candles before a storm. They sense it, though no one dares speak it aloud. The game is ending, not because it has been lost, but because it has been dismantled from the inside out. You walk the floor without rushing. The eyes that once dismissed you now follow your every step, unsure if you are the cause or the omen. Whispers coil through the air, carried from table to table. The tables are rigged. The winners are fake. The house is a lie, and it spreads faster than any hand you ever played. Even those who thought themselves immune now clutch their chips with suspicion, as if the plastic discs could suddenly reveal their true worth. Nothing. The spell is broken, the grand illusion ruptured. Some still sit, frozen, unwilling to accept that their sanctuary of hope was a predator in disguise. But most are rising, chairs scraping across the marble in uneven discord. They move toward the doors without looking back, avoiding the gaze of the pit bosses whose false confidence is slipping into something close to panic. Every empty seat is a blade drawn across the casino's throat. This place doesn't bleed in red, it bleeds in silence, in the absence of belief. The owners appear from the shadows of their private balcony, their smiles rigid, their gestures hollow. They try to speak of chance, of luck, of one more hand, but their voices echo strangely now, stripped of the hypnotic power they once held. You can see it in their eyes, the fear of men who've ruled a kingdom only to wake one morning and find the walls dissolving. They are not the architects they claim to be. They are parasites exposed to daylight. It is not chaos that has undone them. It is clarity. A clarity you cultivated in the darkness, drip by drip, until their empire stood on nothing but the brittle scaffolding of lies. And now that the structure is bare, the collapse is inevitable. The great fortress they built was never made of stone. It was built of your trust, and you have taken it back. You do not gloat. You do not rush. You simply stand in the center of the room, watching the once mighty machine grind into stillness. The casino hasn't just lost. It has been erased from its own myth, and though the walls still stand tonight, you know, they will never breathe again. You move through the casino as if walking through the ribs of a dying beast. The air is thick with the scent of something ending, not fire, not smoke, but the cold metallic trace of a system bleeding out. Once, this place roared with the fever of the hunt, laughter that was never joy, applause that was never for you. Now it is quiet, too quiet. Chairs sit abandoned, half pushed away from tables that no longer call anyone's name. The cards lie face down, like corpses unwilling to show their secrets. You remember how they watched you before, not with curiosity but calculation. You were a number, a bet, a heartbeat they could time and manipulate. Every step you took then was under their ceiling of control. But tonight, their eyes flicker with something unfamiliar uncertainty. The pit bosses linger at the edges, pretending to check ledgers, their hands restless. The owners stand behind the glass, whispering in panic. They know it now. The house doesn't win if the players have walked away. The silence is not empty. It is pressure. It is the weight of absence. The heartbeat of the casino, the constant hum of willing victims, is gone. They are looking at you, though they will never admit it. They sense that you are the axis on which this ending turns. They wonder if you came to gloat, but you did not come for them. You came for the closing. You pass a roulette wheel and stop it with your hand. It makes no sound. It is not just halted, it is stripped of meaning. You move past rows of slot machine, their lights still blinking in desperate rhythms, begging for hands that will never touch them again. They hum like trapped insects in a jar. You do not respond. You are the hand that unscrewed the lid. There is a key in your pocket. You didn't take it from them. They handed it to you without realizing it, back when they thought you were harmless. The lock is not on the front door. It is on the myth itself. You are here to turn it. You step into the manager's office, where the ledger lies open. Numbers that once pulsed with life are now just ink on paper. You close the book. The sound is final. Outside, you hear the faint creak of the main door shutting, the hollow echo of a place emptied of purpose. The last thing you see before leaving is your own reflection in the glass. Not the reflection of a gambler, not even a victor. You see someone who no longer speaks the language of the table, someone who burned the dictionary of their control. You do not smile. The act is too sacred for celebration. You simply turn away, leaving the hollow shell behind, knowing it will never draw breath again. You step into the night, leaving the carcass of the casino behind you. The cold air tastes different now, clean, unperfumed by the stale incense of deception. For so long, the walls had pressed in on you, thick with the heat of desperation, the clatter of false victories, the murmurs of those who thought they were winning. There is only silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of a predator who has eaten well. You do not celebrate. Celebration belongs to gamblers who mistake survival for triumph. What you have done is something older, something sharper. In the ancient tongue of tacticians, you have shifted the board entirely. You have taken the game away from the dealer's hands and shattered it into pieces so small it can never be rebuilt. They will call it ruin. You will call it balance. Once, you were inside their gravity, pulled toward the glow like a moth spiraling toward a fire it could not name. You played, you lost, you learned, and with every loss, the light dimmed until you could finally see the machinery behind it. You saw the cogs turning in the shadows, the quiet exchanges of power between the ones who pretended to smile at you. That knowledge was the beginning of your severance. Now you carry no currency they can trade in. They cannot bait you with chips, nor tempt you with the illusion of control. The value you hold is untouchable, measured not in winnings, but in the choice to never sit at their table again. That is your weapon. That is the iron in your spine. You walk further into the dark, but the dark no longer frightens you. Out here, there are no flashing lights, no carefully engineered applause, no hands shuffling a rigged deck. Out here, every step is yours alone. There is no dealer to grant you permission. There is no pit boss to measure your worth. Out here, the rules dissolve. They will whisper your name in the ruins. Not with respect, not with gratitude, but with the unease of those who have seen a creature they cannot hunt. They will tell each other you were lucky, that you found a loophole, that you cheated. They will not admit the truth, that you simply refused to play, and in doing so, starved the beast that fed on everyone else. You do not look back. The casino is already crumbling in the minds of those who once worshipped it. Its legend is becoming a warning, its glamour a ghost, and you, no longer a player, no longer even a saboteur, stand apart, carrying the quiet certainty that no table, no system, no empire built on exploitation will ever own you again. The night accepts you, and for the first time, you understand the kind of power that cannot be gambled away.